it's been a busy time here in the WWE. It's been a busy time in wrestling, period. First news broke that SmackDown was going back to USA. Stock went down. Then, out of nowhere, a bunch of people started getting fired. Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Boy, oh boy. It was time for a good old bus flip. And we got one. I'm gonna be honest. They were very gentle with this one. I think there's all in all about 20 talent got released. Um, Again, they were very gentle with their releases. I think they targeted people who had not been used on television in a long time, for the most part, and that was generally it. If you've never been on television in terms of NXT, or if you haven't been on television in months, or if you're on the main roster and you haven't been on television in ages, then you probably got the axe today. If you're on the main roster and you so it's not too bad. It's not too bad. So that's the first, our opening story, is we're going to go through all of the releases one by one. Then we're going to go to the story of SmackDown returning to Monday night, returning to USA Network in 2024. What that could mean for Raw and NXT, and why the stock went down. And then we may do some other things later, depending on how much time we have. So we're going to be talking about some things. But we're going to be honest here. You know, there's no outrage. There's no there's not a lot of surprise in some of the releases. One or two of them raised an eyebrow, but for the most part, there was not much surprise in the releases. Again, I think they're being very gentle. I don't think I need, with this channel and with this audience that I have slowly but surely built, I don't think I need to go through why these releases are necessary. For starters, they do yearly churn anyway. If you think WWE cutting 20 wrestlers is a big deal, then heavens to Betsy, wait till you find out about the NFL. Wait till you find out about the NBA and the NHL and Major League Baseball. You know, it's kind of silly. You know, the amount of people who get cut in professional sports. Sometimes you cut people just because the time is up. You know, just because they've been around for so long, they no longer actually add anything to the show or add anything to the roster. Sometimes that's why you cut certain people. Other people, you just don't see that much in. But sometimes, like JR says, you got to go away, learn a new hold. And Koshan R said there's probably going to be some releases tomorrow too. Maybe. It might be. Usually these releases are not, well, back in 2020, it was like a 2-day affair. Today, it was, what I don't like? Before we get into the list, I don't like these dribs and drabs. Like people I went to Fightful and they had, I swear to Jesus, they had a post for every individual person who was released. Because they were finding out in dribs and drabs that certain people were released from WWE. Why don't WWE just put out a cut list? Here's all of the wrestlers that we already released. Here's the entire list. There will be no more after today, and call it a day. Instead of letting people announce it themselves via the internet, just give them the phone call and say, we'll be announcing it at 4:30 that so-and-so and so has been released. Then you could put out all your well wishes and everything, and then people don't have the anxiety of, oh my God, is my favorite wrestler going to get cut? Because that's the worst part of this stuff. I mean, all the fake outrage, that's one thing. The worst part is people who get anxious. Oh my God, Johnny Gargano is going to be fired. There was so much of that today. There was so much, oh my God, Johnny Gargano is going to get fired. What are we going to do? There's no reason to think Johnny Gargano is going to be fired. Except for the fact that he hasn't been on TV in forever. But that anxiety is very strange. and I don't like it. But other than that, they could do these releases, I think, all at one time on a Friday, and I think they probably wanted to do it before SmackDown. But I really did not have too much of a problem with anybody they released so far. So let's talk about it. We're 5 minutes in, gave people the time to come in. Thank you all. I appreciate everybody for stopping in on your Thursday. I promise I probably won't spend more than maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours of your time. I'm going to try to do this very quickly. Try not to waste up too much of your time. Let's start with NXT, with people that I don't know. Alexis Gray. I've seen a picture of her. I have no idea who she is. She's a cute black girl. She sounds like she's one of these collegiate athletes that they signed that never made it to TV. Daniel MacArthur, outside of being a cute black girl, he's another guy who never made it to TV. Kevin Ventura Cortez, I have no idea who that is. Bryson Montana, it feels like somebody that he was on TV at one point, and then they pulled him off. But again, NXT talent, nothing. Dabba-Kato. Now, Dabba-Kato's been around for a few years. I think he's been around for about 3 or 4 years, actually. Dabba-Kato came in 2017 or 2018. It might have been 5 years or so. He's a giant, but they don't get much out of him. For some reason, Shawn Michaels decided he was going to absolutely bury Dabba-Kato by having him lose to Tyler Bate. Look, I get it. Tyler Bate is a pushed wrestler. Dabba-Kato isn't. But he has a unique look. You could have done something unique with him. But at the same time, you do have Braun Strowman, and maybe he's redundant, But at the same, also you could have had a kaiju fight between him and Braun Strowman before he left. I think they did that before, though, right? I think they did that. But Dabba-Kato, I'm not going to pretend like it was like wasted talent. It's just that he's freakishly large, and you don't come across a lot of big guys like Dabba-Kato. You just don't. Yulisa Leon, or Yulia Leon, this one kind of sucks. I think Yulisa Leon and Valentina Feroz was a good tag team. I think that as a pair, they were pretty good. I do think Valentina was probably the better of the two. And I think both of them were pretty injury prone. But I don't think Yulisa Leon, I personally wouldn't have cut her. I would, maybe it's English second language is why they cut her, but I personally would not have cut Yulisa Leon or Yulia Leon. Shanky, but was just in India wrestling in WWE. What was this, last week or 2 weeks ago? I thought the guy was fired already anyway. I thought he was one of those silently released kind of guys. But Shanky being gone, I mean, nothing was lost. I think Brett Lauderdale likes him, so the GCW crowd would be reaching out to Shanky soon, I guess. Have fun with that. Heavens to Betsy! Quincy Elliott got released. I am not one to be too happy about people losing their jobs, but I gotta give you 2 claps and a Ric Flair. I'm so glad at least this guy's gone. My goodness. He's another one of these people that I thought was quietly released a long time ago. He was no good anyway. I'm talking, he's LGBT Mabel, which I don't understand why they thought that was a good idea. But apparently they did. And, now we don't have to worry about this guy anymore. He sucked anyway. It's all bad. It's pretty bad. I can tell you that much. He sucked. Mansoor was released. Now, Mansoor had a really good video with his family when he was released. He cut a hell of a promo. Shows that he's witty. He's got a sense of humor. He was saddled with a terrible name. Look, Mansoor is not a good name. And as long as he was wrestling in Saudi Arabia, he was okay. I think he was talented. He's just small, I think he could talk. He's just a smaller guy. And I'm not sure what he could do on his own. He comes across like a tag team wrestler. I think the tag team with him and Mustafa Ali had potential. but they decided not to go that route. Oh well. Mace was released. I mean, he's an internet favorite because he's one of these big otakus, big weebs. You know, he likes Naruto and anime and video games and stuff like that. So it's interesting that he ended up getting cut. You know, how people, it hurt their feelings that he got cut. But I'm not surprised at all that he got cut, especially if they cut Mansoor. Why wouldn't you cut Mace? Dana Brooke got released. 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Dana Brooke, 10 years in WWE. 10 years in WWE. And I guess as long as she stayed on the main roster, she was fairly safe. She got moved to NXT. They seem to be going in a direction with her, which is the only thing I have a problem with here, is that they seem to be trying to do something with her. And then now it's got to be abandoned because she got released. Which means that her storyline with young Kalani Jordan is over. And I think that they never even got the match out of that. You know, so that sucks. You know, people are telling me that Mansoor's real name is Mansoor. Well, doesn't matter. It's still a suck ass name. Still a terrible name. In any event, Dana Brooke, 10 years of sub mediocrity in WWE. She never really got any better. I think we finally just got to the end of the road, and this is a female JTG, you know, and for me, it's like they forgot she was on the roster until they sent her to NXT, and then they was like, oh my god, she's still here. Yeah, next round to cut, she's gone. But it's unfortunate for Kalani Jordan that she was in the middle of a storyline and now Dana Brooke is gone. Top Dollar. So Top Dollar was released. They did not release B-Fab or Ashanti Theodonis yet. I think when I saw that Top Dollar was released, I assumed that Ashanti Theodonis and B-Fab were also released, but their names are not on this list. So I guess that leaves some credence to these releases might not be over. Either that or they're injured, or one of them was injured, and they typically try not to release injured talent. So maybe Ashanti Theodonis is released and he'll be quietly released later on once he heals up. I don't know. Or maybe they just like him and they want to use him. Maybe they'll send him back to NXT, they'll revamp him or something. I don't know. Maybe him and B-Fab have a future, going on here. I don't know, but Top Dollar, kind of useless if you ask me. Flop Dollar, the worst. All right, very, very cocky, very little talent. Well, he can join the mega list of wrestlers who've been cut from the NFL and from WWE. And he's been fired from WWE twice. Incredible, absolutely incredible. But he wasn't getting over anyway. Top Dollar wasn't getting over. Hit Row wasn't getting over, and there's just no benefit to it so far from what I see. Elias. So Elias has been released. Not necessarily a good look, but Elias has been gone for so long now that I'm not surprised. Again, Triple H is now running the company. It doesn't matter what people think about Vince running the company. Triple H is running the company. Triple H, almost immediately, the moment that Triple H took control of the company, Elias diminished almost immediately. Again, if he didn't push you in NXT, why would he push you on the main roster? He did not like Elias. Elias is not a workhorse. He's big, he's jacked, he's somewhat charismatic. I mean, he got over the silly brother gimmick, which was absolutely silly, but it was working. I mean, we were all there. We were all laughing at the segments. The crowd was involved with it. People liked it. People liked Elias. People like Ezekiel. People like this guy because he was funny and he was entertaining. He absolutely has a future. Hopefully, he gets scooped up by Impact and he can go and really do some really good stuff there. I think him and Joe Hendry could have some real fun together with him and his guitar, and they could probably have a battle of the bands kind of deal. But Elias will always be remembered for his epic segment with Kevin Owens, where he got booed for what it seemed like 5 or 10 minutes straight. It was epic. It was fantastic. He's rubbed shoulders with everybody, from Undertaker to John Cena. He had a career far better than most people would give him credit for. He was probably never going to be the world champion. He was probably never going to be a champion. But he was incredibly talented, incredibly entertaining. It's just that Triple H is not interested in using these kinds of guys. He wasn't interested in using Elias, which is very unfortunate because the guy is huge, jacked, and charismatic. And apparently that's not what Triple H is looking for. Aaliyah is next. Aaliyah has been off TV for a really long time. I think she was injured. She also spent 6 years in NXT, so she barely survived that. She never found her footing on the main roster, despite the fact that she was a former women's tag team champion. I have no idea why she was a women's tag team champion, but I guess they was trying to push Raquel. But they really didn't have anything for Aaliyah anyway. She was one of these people who've been sitting home forever. It's very unfortunate, but you're not losing anything with Aaliyah. Next is Emma. Now, Emma was re-signed by Triple H as a big surprise, and then he promptly put her in the dirt. I mean, promptly put her in the dirt. Did nothing with her. Nothing. She barely made appearances. She didn't even make jobber class in WWE. She was that low on the totem pole, is that she didn't even become a jobber. The sad part about this is WWE announced a show in Australia, and all of the Australian wrestlers were tweeting about it, including Emma, only to find out like an hour or so later that she was being released. That was incredibly sad. That was really sad. I'm pretty sure the door is open for Tenille to go back to Impact, where she was doing some work there. It just sucks that she never really got a chance in WWE in this go round. But we've been seeing Emma on TV for a decade now, seemingly. So I think if there was something there, we would have known it by now, right? I just don't think it's there. I am disappointed in Riddick Moss. They released Riddick Moss, another big dude who could talk, fast, agile. This guy has the most upside of anybody who was released today. All right, of anybody who was released today, he had the most upside. He was saddled with that goofy Madcap Moss gimmick. It was definitely Baby's first gimmick, as they was trying to see how he could handle it, and I think he did very well. Unfortunately, that was under Vince. So when Triple H took over, Riddick Moss went into the dirt. I mean, it's same thing happened to Austin Theory. Same thing happened to Mason Mansoor. There was quite a few people who Vince at least had them on TV doing something. When Triple H took over, they disappeared. They vanished. And there was just no opportunity for Riddick Moss after that. I think he might have appeared twice since then. And I think he wrestled Gunther for the Intercontinental title once. And that was it. So I think they're really missing out on Riddick Moss. He's a young guy, so maybe he'll be back, hopefully. It feels a lot like when they released Chris Masters, where there was some upside to Chris Masters, but you could tell he wasn't ready yet. And I could think you see the same thing here with Riddick Moss, where you could tell there's something there with him, but you could also tell that he's not ready yet. He's not ready to break through. But the fact that he did not get to at least stay on the roster, so they could groom him and grow what he's got, is embarrassing. I mean, this is a guy who has similar proportions to Braun Breaker. Talk about almost the exact same size. Explosiveness almost exactly the same. The difference is he's actually smoother in promo and could play a character more than Braun Breaker could. So I think that he probably would have had a better upside than anybody that they released so far. I have no idea why they chose to release Riddick Moss. If I got any alpha talent, Riddick Moss goes not to AEW, but to maybe Impact or something like that, learns a new hold, gets over, finds himself, and then comes back. Hopefully. Because I really think dude got something. I really didn't think there's something there. Next is Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin. Look, I'm not upset about Shelton Benjamin being released. But he hasn't been doing anything. He's over the age of 40. He's been around since 2002, 2001. The guy has 20 years in WWE. And I know he left for a little while, but he's been on in front of us for 20 years. He might still have some gas in the tank, but I think that releasing him as a wrestler is one thing. They should definitely bring him in as a trainer. They should definitely bring him in as a coach down in NXT. To me, that is where this is a guy who helped train Brock Lesnar when he was in college. Shelton Benjamin has a wealth of knowledge. To let that go somewhere else is a mistake. You don't need him as a wrestler anymore because creatively there's not much you could do with him because he can't really talk and cut promos. I would have loved the reformation of the Hurt Business, and we do need to have a moment of silence for the Hurt Business. It seems to me though that they looked at Shelton Benjamin and was like, okay, he's washed. What can we do? Make him a coach. Offer him a coaching position in NXT. You can certainly do worse. You can certainly do worse when it comes to coaches. This guy has an incredible athletic background, especially when it comes to other amateur wrestlers and teaching them how to do what they do in WWE. Oh, he would have been perfect. Send him down to NXT. Let him get hold of a lot of the collegiate wrestlers who come in and teach them and coach them up. He could have been excellent for that. And hopefully the door is not closed with that. But I love me some Shelton Benjamin. I've always been a Shelton Benjamin fan. I've been a Shelton Benjamin fan since 2004, since I first seen him. He's tremendous. He should at least be a coach down in the Performance Center. He's a personal favorite of mine. I love seeing him get so much attention when he got cut because everybody likes Shelton Benjamin. I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about him outside of the fact that he can't cut promos. But he came back a little bit older, and I get it. I think he's over the age of 40. He might be over the age of 42. So I get why you released him. He's an older guy on the roster. You want to try to get the roster younger. But at least make him a coach. There's a place for Shelton Benjamin somewhere in your company. I know it. I swear by it. Especially if I was running the fucking company. All right. Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs was cut. Jacked. Charismatic. Vince liked Rick Boogs. You could tell that Vince probably had something to do with Rick Boogs. He was doing the Boogs Nakamura team, and it seemed like Vince was leaning more towards Nakamura being the Shawn Michaels of the team, and and Nakamura being the Jannetty. But we're in an interesting time where Triple H just does not care about these guys. Boogs also is very injury prone. He kept getting injured. He kept getting hurt. Hopefully Boogs doesn't give up on wrestling. He goes somewhere else and gets over. But he has a lot of charisma. He is currently, WWE used him in a commercial, currently. A Snickers commercial. He was in the Old Spice commercials. What was that? The Night Panther commercials or whatever. He was fun in those. He has been a really fun character. A guy who doesn't take himself too seriously, but he's a guy who works out in the gym. He could have come along in the ring, but he never got a sustained look. You know, so it's unfortunate. I think there was some upside with Rick Boogs. I think that you could have done something with him. You could definitely find a spot for a guy like Rick Boogs on your roster. Is he a main event WrestleMania kind of guy? No, he's not. He's not going to main event WrestleMania. But would he have been a fun mid card act? Yes. I think Vince really had a plan with him because he was doing the whole gorilla pressing guys, and he was looking good, man. He was doing something. Unique look with the mustache, and the jacked Freddie Mercury thing he had going on. Man, it could have been great. It could have been great. There's a lot of potential there with Rick Boogs. It's very unfortunate that Rick Boogs was released. Mustafa Ali. This one was a big surprise. Now, a lot of the dirt sheets have claimed that Mustafa Ali leaving WWE is not related to the overall releases, but maybe something else. But this guy was just on NXT Tuesday, claiming he was going to be on Raw on Monday. They booked him for a pay-per-view that's coming up soon, and then they fired him today. It's from Mustafa Ali. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming. This guy has been trying to get out of this contract since 2020. He's been complaining and bitching and belly aching to get out of his contract for years. So they fired him in the middle of a push, which seems very, very bizarre to me. But maybe this push wasn't going to go the way that he wanted it to go. Who knows what's going to happen? Maybe it'll come out eventually what the big deal was. But he's finally been released from his contract. And I think that he can talk, interesting talker, but undersized, and much like Mansoor, was probably not going to go much of anywhere with his size and his he can talk, but he doesn't jump off the page in terms of charisma. Good promo, but not over the top charisma. So maybe he is a solid guy that you could probably see in AEW. To me, he seems like an Impact guy. I'm gonna be honest right now. I hope everybody on this list goes to Impact. I hope not one of them goes to AEW. I hope they all go to Impact because nobody in wrestling today needs talent like Impact. Okay? Because they got PCO and Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray on the roster, all right? Get these guys out of here. Bring some of these people in. Mustafa Ali and Impact could really be a big deal. He really could. So could Mansoor, and quite a few others that were, Rick Boogs and Elias. They really could kill an Impact. They really could do a really good job there. Riddick Moss and Emma too. Yes, they could really do a good job in Impact. In AEW, they get lost in the shuffle, then be on Dark, and then doing nothing or just coming in to do jobs like they treat Tony Nese. All right, so the one we're all here to talk about, the biggest release of the day, Dolph Ziggler. The Dolph Ziggler release was a surprise. It was an absolute surprise because I thought Dolph was a lifer. I thought there's no way they're going to fire Dolph Ziggler ever because he's a great six man. I think Public Enemy's podcast said that he's the greatest six man of all time, and I think it might be a good point when it comes to guys who are just right outside of the main event that you can plug anywhere on the roster. Dolph is the guy for that. You could absolutely take Dolph Ziggler, put him in there with Seth Rollins, or put him in there with Roman, or put him in there with Gunther. I can't believe we didn't get Seth Rollins and Gunther. I just can't believe we didn't get that. You could put him in a tag team. You could do anything with Dolph, and he will perform and be believable in every single role, with the exception of maybe beating Roman Reigns or something like that. But it's one of those things where I think Dolph mentally checked out 6 years ago. I think Dolph has not given a fuck about WWE since at least 2016. You know, he on Twitter. He talks about how he doesn't even watch wrestling. He barely tweets about it. I think he burned out a long time ago. You know, and now it became all about the money, and that was it. But the outpouring of respect from John Cena to Matt Cardona to Dustin Rhodes to pretty much Randy Orton, pretty much everybody who came out and was like, Dolph Ziggler is the man. Dolph Ziggler is tremendous. Dolph Ziggler is great. It's all true. Dolph Ziggler is probably the guy where you could have said, man, if there was, he is probably the Mr. Perfect, the Ted DiBiase, the Rick Rude of this generation, where you're always going to say, it would have been nice if we could have fit him in there for a little while. You know, it would have been nice if we could have fit Dolph in there. You know, if you look at a lot of the guys who came and went, you know, the Punks and the Danielsons and the Dean Ambroses, wouldn't it have been nice if that was Dolph Ziggler instead? You know, like, wouldn't it have been nice if it was Dolph Ziggler rather than Jinder Mahal? You know, wouldn't it have been nice if it was Dolph Ziggler rather than the great Khali? You know, or rather than Big Show, it was Dolph Ziggler. You know, even with the Intercontinental title or the U.S. title, sometimes you'd be like, man, it would have been nice if it was Dolph instead. And it just came across like he was a guy who was right there, and was never going to get over the hump because he was never going to be the guy. He was never going to be the top star, the main event. This is the one guy that I could see Tony Khan bringing in. Maybe not anybody else, but Dolph Ziggler, absolutely, you will see him on Dynamite. He absolutely will be in AEW. And I know they, and if we're going to be honest, his brother actually teased a tag team 3 days ago, right? Like, I think Dolph knew he was getting released before it happened. I think a lot of these people knew it was released, and I don't think it was a surprise. Maybe they was told to, you know, lay low and we'll announce it when, you know, or don't announce it until Thursday or something like that. But his brother was, you know, teasing a tag team and tag team matches 2 or 3 days ago, you know. So for me, Dolph Ziggler is the fucking man. I love me some Dolph Ziggler, but mentally he was checked out a long time ago. I think creatively he peaked when he was when him and the Miz main evented for the Intercontinental title. I think that's creatively where he peaked, and I don't think he's done anything of note since. Yes, his NXT title run was fun. Yes, his tag team with Robert Roode was fun, but I definitely don't think that Dolph Ziggler had another main event run in the tank. You know, I just don't see it. I don't understand how Triple H likes work rate guys, but then end up cutting Dolph Ziggler. You know, but whatever. I understand why you cut Dolph, though. Dolph is over the age of 40. He's been on WWE TV almost 20 years. And I get it. You know, I absolutely get it. But he can talk. He can work. He's in great shape. Why wouldn't you want that guy on your roster? But to me, I gotta say, he's going to go down with Ted DiBiase and Rick Rude and Mr. Perfect as being a perennial, very, very, very upper mid card act who, in a perfect world, in a fair world, quote unquote, he would have gotten at least a 6 or 7 month run with the world title and would have been great. But it didn't work out that way. And I'm not one to bitch and moan and whine and say it should have been. I'll just say it would have been nice that instead of we had that terrible Dean Ambrose title run, it was Dolph Ziggler. Instead of having the that shitty Jinder Mahal title run, that it was Dolph Ziggler. Would have been nice. Instead of CM Punk being champion for 434 days, it would have been Dolph Ziggler. It would have been so much better. But it is what it is. And I think Super Marcus is talking about here right now. that Dolph was making $1.5 million. His contract was expiring next year. That seemed to have been one of the reasons why they cut some of these people, is that their contracts were coming up anyway. Another one I think I heard was that a lot of these people they had nothing for them creatively. And speaking of which, now they didn't go on a firing spree. This is why I say they were being very gentle, because there's still a lot of people who don't make television who didn't get fired, right? NXT and main roster. Xia Li, Odyssey Jones, Boa, Cedric Alexander. There's still tons of people that they could have cut that they didn't. At least, knock on wood, they haven't gotten cut yet. All right? There's still plenty of people that they could have cut that they didn't, which tells me they were being very, very gentle in their cuts. They didn't want to go out full bloodbath like they did in 2020 and 2021, where it was a bloodbath. They were firing fucking main event guys. Okay, they were getting rid of guys that were just in the main event 2 weeks ago. You know, it was wild. You know, it was wild. But today they were okay. Now maybe tomorrow they'll come hard, and who knows? We'll wake up, Friday afternoon, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you just start seeing main event guys start getting cut. You start seeing Giovanni Vinci got cut, and Cedric Alexander got cut, and then you start creeping up. Then Karrion Kross has gotten cut. Then maybe Drew McIntyre gets cut or some silly shit like that. You start seeing stuff. I hope we don't get that far. I hope this is it. And they don't go no further than this, because why in the world would you? Somebody got me though. Somebody tricked me, because I thought they fired Nia Jax. Cause I remember I was following the releases, and then somebody put out, "Oh, I just signed a new contract 3 weeks ago, and it's already over." And I was like, "They really just fired Nia Jax all over again?" And then I went to her official Twitter account, and she was still there. But so they didn't get Nia Jax, at least not yet. We don't know what's going on with her, but apparently they're still going to use her. But they went through all the trouble of releasing Mustafa Ali. So it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But this was a very low key list of people to get released. It was light. It's light work for WWE. Vince has gone to the bone sometimes, bro. And Vince gets bold with it sometimes. Like when they fired Bray Wyatt in the middle of the day on a Saturday, that was cold blooded. Like that's cold blooded. But Triple H ain't did nothing like that yet. But then again, we don't know how many more cuts are coming. We don't know how much they got going on. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's go to what you guys think. Adam Pearce. I don't know. I thought Adam Pearce had gotten released too, but apparently he's still there. His name wasn't on the list, and these guys are paying attention to every single person who's on the list. Karrion Kross next. Why would you think that Karrion Kross is a KKK member? I don't know. Cedric might be safe. Why? What about, is he injured? That's the only thing I can tell you that might be where a guy might be safe, is if he's injured. Then they'll probably get him when the injury is over. Sheamus. I did hear that Sheamus's contract will be up next year, but I don't think Sheamus is going to be on the chopping block. Sheamus might be in that Dolph Ziggler class though. Of he's been around for so long that I don't think people really recognize his or appreciate him, and they don't do enough with Sheamus. So we don't know. Again, we're looking at a whole new business model now. So you got Endeavor taking over everything. We don't know how they want the company to be presented. Maybe they want some of these guys who've been been here for 10 years gone. Maybe they want a guy like Shelton Benjamin and Dolph Ziggler and Sheamus and all these guys gone because they've been there forever and they don't really add anything to the product anymore. Even though Sheamus is having some of the best matches that he's ever had, you know, he's in a position where he's over the age of 40. He's not going to be a world champion anytime soon, you know, and he isn't really even doing a good job of getting the other guys over. So there's just no telling. You know, but it would suck if Sheamus got released. That would fucking suck. I can tell you that much. Especially with the career resurgence he's had for the last 2 years. TM Pyro thought that Xia Li was already gone. I know a lot of people did. Maybe she is, and we don't know. Happy Thursday, Lord Cosmo. Light says that Odyssey Jones has potential. Good luck. I mean, even when he was in NXT, he didn't show anything. He didn't show me anything. He was big and smiley, and that was it. You know, if you put MVP with him and get rid of Omos, then maybe okay. You know, but I wouldn't say get rid of Omos. You know, maybe you make him a tag team. How about that? Wouldn't that be weird? Odyssey Jones and Omos as a tag team? Why not? Dolph is also one of my favorite wrestlers. It's very interesting decision to not cut Cedric Alexander. I mean, I'm not saying that Cedric Alexander should be. I'm just saying very interesting decision not to. Also, a very interesting decision not to cut Induce Share. You know, Induce Share has been on the roster for a long time. They're not getting over, and WWE has stopped using them. So they were also in India right along with Shanky. So why didn't they get cut? You know, I don't know. If only if Jack Swagger didn't kick him in the face. Man, I'm not one of those people who think that Dolph Ziggler was on the rise if Jack Swagger didn't kick him in the head. I think he would have gotten a good run out of that, but I think that probably would have been it. He probably would have got it maybe one more time, but that would have been it. You know, it just felt like if he worked very hard, he got there, and it was a moment in time, but he was never going to get back to that point, and he was never going to get back to that level. So it's very unfortunate. You know, Dolph Ziggler was the only member of the Spirit Squad. Yeah, he definitely. Ryan and Nick Namath as Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Probably. They'll probably bring him on Dynamite as like he's a big deal. He'll do a job to like Adam Cole or something like that, and then he'll be tag teaming with his brother on Rampage. Kind of goofy, but it is what it is. WG Phil says he would have traded Punk's 2 world title runs as Benjamin and Ziggler. Especially that first Punk run. I'm talking with the big gold belt. He was not ready for that. And it was very unfortunate that he even had that run. Especially since they took the belt from him without even beating him for it. He just said, fuck this is not working. Rachel Buck. Who's he talking about? Mustafa Ali? Okay. They wasted Emma's time. Absolutely. They absolutely wasted Emma's time. They didn't even give... I don't know. It felt like Triple H was trying to make amends with some talent. Like, why didn't they fire the Good Brothers? I think one of them is hurt, but I would have fired the other one. And then let them like, hey, your pink slip is coming too, my guy. Why didn't they fire Tegan Knox? You know, like she got pulled from Raw. It would make sense why she got pulled from Raw if she's going to get fired. You know, if they're going to fire her a couple days later. I still would have let her have a match though, but it doesn't matter. AJ3 says, who out of all these releases would you trade to AEW or Impact or the Indies and bring them back in 5 years? Well, in terms of bringing them back in 5 years, probably only Riddick Moss. You know, he's the only one I could look at and say, well, he'll probably be back in 5 years. I think the guy's probably a little over the age of 30, if that. And he's a supremely talented guy. You know, I think he's got something going for him. But the rest of these people, I think some of them, most of them are just too old. There's nothing you could do about it. And the other ones are too inexperienced. And if they can't pick it up right now, are they ever going to pick it up? There's just no telling, you know? JS kind of liked Ali. Well, aren't you a blessed one? You are a blessed one for liking Ali. He was Ali is a tiny Seth Rollins. Oh man, is that disrespect to Seth Rollins? It might be. Uh, AJ3 says Cedric Alexander, Noam Dar, Akira Tozawa. Tozawa is still there. Like that's crazy. Uh-uh. Sullivan Benjamin is 50. He's over the age of 45. Oh, brother. WG Field has no hopes for Braun Breaker until, well, I guess under Triple H. I'm concerned about that myself because the Braun Breaker push, it ended. It almost coincided with Triple H taking over. You know, Not exactly. He was there for a little while, but now he's been sort of underutilized since Triple H took over the main roster creative. We're not getting super push of a Braun Breaker anymore. Triple H never liked Lacey Evans. Again, he's a work rate guy. I don't understand how he's a work rate guy, but he went after certain people and decided that he was not going to use them. You know, but nobody on this list is a work rate talent. Dolph Ziggler is, but he's older, and Shelton Benjamin is, but he's also older. So there is nobody on the list that I can look at and say, hey, these guys are worth it. Did you ever see my source singing Snake Eater? They were calling him Jihadi Jesus. No, I did not hear that. I don't know what that means. Riddick Moss survived a feud with Corbin too. Had nothing after that. Yeah, that was very unfortunate. Remember between David Kato and Corey J. What picture? Emma was a pity hire. I don't understand why was she a pity hire? I just don't understand what they brought her back for. What was the point? I don't know. It just doesn't seem to me like it makes sense. Nikita Lyons is currently injured, so that's probably why she was able to not get released. Xia Li also dodged the fire. How is Apollo Crews still? Yeah, that's a good point. How is Apollo Crews still there? I don't know. Like, I think he's one of these also rans that you're probably better off putting him back on the indies. Look, Apollo Crews is cool and all. There was a moment in time there where I was actually down for Apollo Crews. I was in on Apollo Crews, but then they decided to ruin him, and now he's nothing. He doesn't even make TV anymore. Sheamus is hurt. I think so. I think he's injured. Release Butch and Holland, not Sheamus. He's probably not going to release Butch. R-Truth is probably going to have a job forever. He's probably going to have a job forever, and plus he's injured. People being ridiculous. Stone Mexican guy talking about firing Bianca Belair. You just want to burn money, don't you? Why would Triple H love Cedric Alexander? Like, he doesn't use Cedric Alexander. Cedric Alexander is never on TV. So what is the evidence that he loved him? At least with Johnny Gargano, you could say, look at NXT. Look at NXT and his consistent push of Johnny Gargano. But there's no such thing going on for Cedric Alexander. He can't even get on TV. So I don't understand what's going on with him. And I don't understand why they doing what they doing with him. Cedric Alexander is a guy who really, if we being honest, outside of the cruiserweight division, he ain't got much of anything. Dexter Lumis, yes, he's another one that I'm pretty. Indy Hartwell as well. Like, what is the purpose of Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis and some of these other people that are on the roster that you never see them do anything and never get used? They're tax write-offs. You know, it was definitely a tax write-off. Oh yeah, the Monsieur Shia LaBeouf thing. I did see that when he did the rubbing his hands together and everything. Um, that's why so many people was like, "Oh, he's an anti-Semite. He's an anti-Semite," and I was like, "For I don't know." But I remember everybody hated him because they thought he was an anti-Semite. But he was just being an edgy kid at the time, I guess. For some reason, you're not allowed to be edgy and weird and stuff anymore. You have to be, in perfect alignment at all times, at every point in your life. That's like, somebody posted a picture of I don't know if it was Rhea Ripley saying the N word or the F word or whatever, but people tried to get her canceled, and all of the simps jumped out the window to try to protect her. I didn't talk about that because apparently it was a long time ago, and it wasn't really a big deal. Yeah, a lot of the call ups and a lot of the re-signings that Triple H didn't go anywhere, and nothing came out of them. You know, Gunter and Imperium are the only things that really got a push, and then a lot of Vince McMahon's projects got stopped, and people still like, oh, Vince is the one doing all this. It's like Vince was pushing Rick Boogs, he was trying to push Riddick Moss, and they both got stopped. Austin Theory was one of his projects that got stopped. You know, Maximum Male Models was one of his projects that got stopped. It was Braun Breaker was his top guy in NXT that got stopped, and now Triple H is sending down old NXT talent like Becky Lynch down there and taking control. So it's very weird. You know, yeah, where is Cameron Grimes? That's a good question. You know, yeah, what happened to him? You know, I don't know. What happened to Cameron Grimes? There's a lot of mid card guys who have just vanished off the face of the earth. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn was mentioned here. They got called up for no reason. Um, Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo, they're supposed to get repackaged for NXT. They're supposed to have a debut match and it never occurred. You know, so maybe they are next. Maybe they're going to get released next because they weren't even mentioned on the last episode of NXT. When they were talking about all the tag teams that wanted to fight, I don't remember seeing Humberto and Angel there. So maybe they're going to be on the chopping block. I don't know, but WWE is operating on a budget now. You know, it's not just them anymore. Now it's Endeavor calling the shots. So Otis and Maxine are safe, but what about? Why would you think Otis is safe? That's my question. Like, why would you think Otis is safe? If anything, Chad Gable is the one who is safe in that whole ordeal. My thoughts are Baron Corbin should have been on this list. Yeah, that's my thoughts. I don't like Baron Corbin. You know, he's a modern day Bradshaw, where I'm just kind of surprised that he's still around. Here it is. What has it been 7 or 8 years? He's still here. I'm very surprised to even see him still around, if we're being honest. But the apparently all of the releases are done. Hopefully they're done, and we won't have to deal with that anymore. So, what am I supposed to be reading? And it's better be relevant to what I'm talking about here because I was about to move on. Mustafa Ali should be in AEW because he needs to be with Daniel Bryan's team and the Blackpool Combat Club. No, I'm sorry. That's I don't understand why you would think that. Let's move on because I like I said, I don't want to take up too much time. It says, will they release Legends too? That's a good question. Why would they? Would they release Legends? But who? There's probably some Legends contracts they were probably back out of, but they'll probably just let those expire. But I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they would do that. I don't think they would do that. All right, let's go into the big news about SmackDown. I'm not going to read the article. Instead, I took notes from many articles, so we're going to do that. Apparently, Odyssey Jones is injured. I don't know, but I'm surprised that he hasn't been fired. When you look at people who haven't been getting used, there's still a lot of people who haven't been getting used that haven't been fired. So maybe this is the first round of cuts. Maybe there's going to be a second round tomorrow. But let's talk about this. So the Hollywood Reporter broke the news that SmackDown will be returning to the USA Network. They will still be on Fridays. This deal is apparently for $1.4 billion or $280 million a year, which is a 40% increase over what they were being paid for Fox. This deal will also include NBC specials, primetime specials for NBC. I don't know if that's per year or for over the life of the contract. And it's a 5-year deal, so maybe it's for a year. So maybe like some kind of Saturday night's main event type of deal. But SmackDown in terms of October 2024 will be returning to USA Network. Raw and NXT are expected to leave USA Network, but they don't have a home scheduled for those two brands yet. Apparently, NXT and Raw are probably going to end up being a package deal. That's what it looks like for me. The NBC specials for the SmackDown deal will begin in 2024, so next year. So it looks like they're going to do like some Saturday night's main event type stuff, or who knows what they may be doing on what night. Of course, we don't know the nature of what these specials will be. Will they be We're assuming they're going to be pay-per-view like shows, similar to AEW's Grand Slam or something like that. But it could also be, a documentary series or something. We don't know yet. But we also don't know if these are going to be live. I don't think that they're live broadcasts. I don't remember seeing the word live. So we don't know what's up with the 4 primetime specials, but that's the thing that most interests me. Now, as we know, when this thing was released, the stock went down, and people are trying to explain why the stock went down, despite the fact that they are getting paid more money. The stock went down. Well, because the reach went down. They left broadcast television to go to cable, back to cable. Which means, of course, Fox was not interested in re-signing WWE, or at least re-signing WWE for the money that they were paying. There's a lot of different reasons why that would be. Yes, one of it is the retransmission fees are not what they expected in terms of WWE. A second thing would be, yes, Rupert Murdoch is now retiring. He's stepping down. So it's just a change in direction as the company changes. But I think also one of the things that is coming away with this is that SmackDown was worth a lot of money. It was worth a lot of money, and now they're getting more money, but fewer people are going to see it. And we talked on this channel before about what Nick Khan had been discussing, which is money versus reach, and that they might sacrifice the money for the reach, but in this situation they didn't. They went for the money, and but we don't know if that was Fox's decision or WWE's decision. We heard from various sources that Fox was, not likely to renew at the same rate or even an increase. So that's a potential problem. But a potential problem might also be that Fox just is having a change of direction in terms of where they want to go with their programming. Now that the bosses and stuff are changing around, WWE is also changing around, so it is what it is. So now the talk is that Raw and NXT could return to USA. It's possible. Or they could go to another cable provider. or they could go to a streaming service. And I think that seems to be where a lot of people are talking about it, because again, we're talking about money here. And you could be talking about Raw going to Apple or Amazon or Netflix or something like that, getting buku money, but you got to have though a subscription or whatever in order to see it. I can see a couple of things with that. One of the many things I've seen that was a problem with the Fox deal was how WWE double dipped and had business dealings with NBC and with Fox at the same time. I saw that being a problem. You know, yes, it's cable when it comes to NBC, but it still did have business dealings with NBC. So there was some debate about, oh, Fox, saying you building up storylines that end up paying off on an NBC product, that being Peacock, and not ending on our product, which is the SmackDown show, rather than, you build up Roman Reigns versus Rey Mysterio or whatever, or Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. And instead of doing it on SmackDown, where it could pop a number, you do it on Peacock, where you pop a number for NBC. And that could have been a problem. And you could see that same issue if they was to go to a streaming service. If they was to take Raw to Amazon, let's say, then you would have two streaming services essentially competing with each other. You would have Amazon's streaming service, and then you have Peacock. So you'd have those two streaming services at odds with each other. That might necessitate some kind of surrender or something that might affect business in the long term. So maybe it's not a good idea. But you never know. They may decide to put Raw on Peacock. Maybe Raw and NXT get moved to Peacock. What about that? That's one thing that nobody has discussed. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, it could be Amazon, it could be Apple, it could be yada, yada, yada. My thing is, why wouldn't it be Peacock? Why not have Monday Night Raw on Peacock? Why not have, NXT has been on the networks for a long time anyway, The NXT has been on the network for most of its run. If they're willing to pay for it or pay for a package deal between Raw and NXT, I think the deal would be easy. Because most of the people who watch WWE will have Peacock anyway. Having Monday Night Raw on Peacock guarantees you at least 3 hours of Peacock watch hours per week. Rather than waiting for the pay-per-views, you get 5 hours essentially guaranteed, because people who watch Raw, most of those people watch NXT. Not everybody, but I think 1.2 million people watched Raw this week. 820 some odd thousand watch NXT. That's the bulk of the Raw audience. Like 400,000 people were not interested. But the bulk of people who watched Raw also watched NXT. So if you could put them together as a package deal on Peacock, you can tell NBC, all right, that's 5 hours per week, times 1.2 million people. That might not be too bad. Instead of going over to Amazon or something like that, Netflix or Hulu or whatever, and competing against them, doing Raw and SmackDown on Peacock might actually be a great move. And it might be worth it. Like for Peacock to be almost the exclusive home to WWE, and for them to be entrenched even more in NBC, could be a powerful weapon. We know that NBC is doing football games on Peacock, right? They're doing first run football games on Peacock. Why wouldn't they do first run wrestling on Peacock weekly? Why not? Why wouldn't you do that? You can still have your SmackDown on TV, but you'll have Peacock for a Raw, and I'm just saying, just in case, you know, you want to discuss Raw going to a different network. Now, there's a lot of people talking about, oh, move Raw to Tuesdays because it's being killed by the football. Football is on for 18 weeks, like if that. They're really stretching it by pushing 2 games a week. Like that was something that nobody saw coming. Moving Raw off of Mondays to me is a smack in the face. Look, I know WWE don't give a fuck. They don't care about traditions. All they care about is money. If USA moved them to Tuesdays and gave them $400 million a year or whatever, they'd probably take it. And it'd be Tuesday Night Raw. And it's dumb, right? I wouldn't do that. Mondays are established. Why break it? But I'm not in control of the company, and Vince is not in control of the company. Nick Khan is. Nick Khan is running things for the most part. And I'm pretty sure that Vince is just going along for the ride at this point, With the exception of certain things, I'm pretty sure Vince. The ball is pretty much wherever you want it now. Because I never thought Vince would even sell the company. So now that Vince has sold the company, I'm looking at it like all things are on the table now. I'm looking at it like everything is on the table. But in my book, you already given Peacock WrestleMania. They get WrestleMania every year. They get WrestleMania and Clash of the Champions and all that kind of stuff, all for the same price. Go ahead and put Raw on there too. If you have to take Raw off of television, put it on Peacock. Don't put it on Amazon Prime, because I'm not getting Amazon Prime just to watch Raw. You can forget it. There was a lot of talk about, hey, what about Raw being 2 hours? Raw being, 2.5 hours or whatever. I don't think so. But with cable dying the way that it is and broadcast tightening the belts, it's going to be a very difficult future. And now we see why, Vince made the decision that he made in terms of selling the company. I think he kind of saw this coming. Now it's an Endeavor problem. But when you look at things, it's not bad. Fox was a lot about it being broadcast television. It's in every single house in the country. But there was a lot of preemptions when it comes to Fox too, especially when football happened. There started being a lot of games being preempted. So certain markets will get blacked out at certain times. A lot of bumping it to FS1. There was a lot of that stuff when it comes to WWF or WWE on Fox. And I wasn't appreciative of all of that stuff. I didn't like Raw getting bumped to FS1. I mean, I'm sorry, SmackDown getting bumped to FS1. I didn't like that. I didn't like SmackDown getting blacked out because the Lions preseason game is on. I don't give a fuck about a preseason game, but the Fox network, the local Fox network does. They definitely care about that. So if it goes back to USA Network and it's not going to get bumped to a different, network, but there's some talk of Disney, maybe Raw being on ABC or Raw being on ESPN or something to that effect. I don't know. The Raw on ESPN will be interesting. I know ESPN isn't doing that great right now, but Raw on ESPN could be interesting, at least for a little while. But ESPN also has Monday Night Football. I don't want it to get taken off of Mondays. So I don't know. If I had my druthers, if I got to make a decision, I would say put it on Peacock. That way, WWE fans don't have to download anything else. We already have Peacock because we use it to watch WrestleMania and Money in the Bank and all this kind of stuff. We could use it to watch Raw. All right, we use it to watch NXT, and it could still be live. and everything can be wonderful. Everything can be great. Just leave it on it. Just leave it. Don't burden us by making us download more stuff or buy more stuff. You know, and I know that's what WWE, is pretty much pitching to them, is that, hey, we got this loyal fan base. We can get them to buy your packages or whatever. But don't even bother. Centralize, if anything. NBC is willing to give you the money, take the deal. Either keep it on USA, which is fine with me. If Raw and NXT stays on USA, that's fine. Or put it on Peacock. If you have to put it on a streaming service, put it on Peacock. That way we don't have to download anything else. And done and done. Call it a day. It's right where the network is. New episode of Monday Night Raw every Monday on Peacock. It's 3 hours. People will sit there and watch 3 hours of Raw every Monday. And then when the show is over, it could go into replay and they can watch it whenever they want. So what's the loss? There's no loss there. At least I don't see it as a loss. So WG Phil says it's a bleak look for WWE. I think it's showing you how difficult the business has become now. And I was talking about this 2 years ago. Like, I just went through old videos on my channel and was deleting things with like 30 views. And I was talking about cord cutting and how advertising revenue and this stuff was going on in 2020, because I was talking about it, but you guys weren't there. A lot of you guys weren't there, so you don't know. But I was talking about this stuff way back then about how, and I occasionally talk about it here, how difficult it is to advertise on a wrestling show, how to get ad dollars on a wrestling show. That's what Fox's problem was. Fox could not find the advertising dollars on a wrestling program. This is the same problem ECW had. It's the same problem that WCW had. The same problem that AEW has. Getting advertisers on this product. Because pro wrestling is neither fish nor fowl. It's not a sport, but it's also not completely scripted television. So people are not sure. And then with the reputation of pro wrestling, it's very difficult to sell to people. So I get it. I get why it's tough, why the ad revenues and stuff are drying up. But this is why they sold to Endeavor, so that they could do the big sponsorship deals and it'll cover the cost of their drying up television revenues. That hopefully going PG and changing the nature of the business a little bit will help out. So I get it. Let's see what you guys think about that. I'm him 24/7 says no Peacock for Raw. I dislike things going digital. Not everyone got fast internet. That's a good point, but also there's a lot of people who don't got cable. There's a lot of people who don't got cable. And when you see that, Giovanni Vinci and Tommaso Ciampa is the lowest rated match in Raw history, it sounds terrible. But it's not like, Raw was doing excellent numbers either. Raw did a shit number. And it's doing shit numbers because it's getting killed by football. It's getting killed by football because that's the only fucking thing that draws on television. Everything else is dying a death on TV. Like WWE being the number one show on cable is not by accident. It's been that way for decades. The only thing that routinely kicks the WWE's ass is football. There was a time where like Dancing with the Stars used to do some damage. And I think like maybe Survivor, when it was hot, was doing some damage. But the only thing that has routinely kicked WWE's ass is football. That's it. Everything else doesn't really knock them from the top spot, even if it damages the rating a little bit. Nothing does as much damage as the NFL. But they're putting NFL games everywhere. There's NFL games on Thursdays. They're doing Saturday night games. They're doing Sunday night games. So you can't avoid it, So the best bet is to put it somewhere where everybody can find it, and then they can find it when the game is over. as opposed to it running head up with the game. And then you say, oh, well, we're going to throw this Raw in the trash like they did this week and have a terrible game. We're going to have a terrible Raw because there's 2 football games going, you know? So it's best to just say, if we move Raw to a streaming service, that streaming service can then immediately run Raw after the show ends, maybe like 30 minutes after the show ends. You can do a little bit of editing or whatever of things that you didn't want to occur, people cursing, blood or whatever. You can edit that part out and then just upload the episode. That way, people who already watch Raw on or watch wrestling on Peacock will go and watch Raw. You know, it's it's very bizarre. Darren Gordon Hill is correct. We need to get them likes up. Everybody who's listening should hit the like button. I hate to be that guy. I usually don't be that guy, but yeah, let's get there. WG Phil says, after seeing Hasbro gave up on Power Rangers, I don't think WWE has a chance. I think that it's going to be a while before anybody taps out on WWE. People want to see what these TV deals are going to be like. Do they have the network? Is the network powerful? Where does the network go? There's still some whispers about Warner Brothers Discovery wanting to be involved. Who knows? We don't know. We don't have no idea. Okay. I can say this. It is a bad deal to go back to cable. That's a mistake. But that's the only mistake here. They still get broadcast television because they're going to get 4 primetime specials a year. That's what it looks like. So that means they're going to get 4 opportunities per year to put their best foot forward on NBC. And we'll see how that turns out. So it's going to be like, I'm guessing, some kind of Saturday Night's Main Event kind of deal or whatever. Just so that they can maintain their reach. But the important thing here is that WWE did kind of fuck their audience with this cable thing. Because some of the first people who are cutting cable are people who can't pay for it. And those people tend to be WWE fans. WWE fans tend to be on the, and it's because there's so many of them, by the way. I know we had this conversation before about, WWE or wrestling fans being lower income and all this kind of stuff, but that's because there's so many of them. AEW can boast about having more fans with higher incomes, but they have fewer fans. So that what they do is they tax the fans that they do have with $50 pay-per-views. You know what I'm saying? And WWE doesn't do that. They give their pay-per-views away essentially for free or for $5, depending on what kind of tier of Peacock you got. But cable, you're talking like a $200 cable bill, and you're just to watch Raw or SmackDown or whatever. If you got people already to download Peacock for free, just put Raw on Peacock. Just put NXT on Peacock. They already got it. You don't have to sell them on anything new. Just put it on Peacock. And they'll already be there watching it. It's good for Peacock. It's good for WWE. They don't have to charge their fans more money to watch the show. They don't have to go out and get a new gadget, a new gizmo to watch the show. Yes, there's going to be people who are going to say, well, my internet sucks. And I get that. But there's going to be a lot more people who are going to have access to the show because it's for free. Rather than having the show be behind that damn USA paywall. That sucks. That shit sucks. So there's going to be a lot of people who like these shows on broadcast TV. So fuck cable. I agree. Peacock can do live shows. Peacock been doing live shows. They have football games live. They have live capabilities. That's not the issue. The issue here is going to be, really, there is no issue when it comes to Peacock. I don't think they're not really hosting anything on Peacock on Mondays. You got a 3-hour program that you can have on a Monday that you know X amount of people are going to watch, whether it's 1 million, 1.2 million, 3 million, or whatever. They already got your device because they watch the pay-per-views. And they will sit there and they'll watch the entire show. And then they'll come, and then a good 70 or 80% of them will come back on Tuesday and watch NXT. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you do that? If you're NBC, why wouldn't you do it? Other than, damn, we're giving WWE too much money. Why wouldn't you do it? You know, your Peacock service loses money anyway. But then again, so does all of these streaming services. They're all losing money. And then cable companies are losing money because people are cutting the cord. So where the fuck is the money? You know, like, where's the money? The money's not in. WWE got more money to be on cable than they would have got on broadcast. That's from the looks of things. Maybe Fox would have kept them, but they probably would have wanted a pay cut. And WWE's like, no, we're not doing that. So we're going to go back to USA. And then we'll dabble in broadcast TV. Fine. But if streaming services are losing money and cable services are losing money and broadcast fees, retransmission fees for broadcast television aren't where they want them to be, where is the money? If you've been following along and you've been paying, especially if you watched the video I put out yesterday, you'll get the answer to that question. Where is the money? Who's going to pay for all this shit? Where is the money going to be? You already got the answer. We're going to talk about this whole thing in a second. Just give me a minute to talk about something else, and then we'll get to. But TKO can't force Vince out of the company. Hell, they want him there. Darren Gordon Hill, sports is unpredictable. WWE is essentially live theater, not exactly the same draw. Correct, but they have a substantial audience. They don't have the NFL's audience, but they have a substantial audience, and they run 52 weeks a year, which the NFL doesn't. So you have a smaller fan base. Well, they have more of a global reach. Because I think they said WWE has 1.2 billion fans or some nonsense like that. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't even know where they got that information from. I'm not going to go down that road. Let's just say that there's 1.5 million WWE fans, 2 million WWE fans, or whatever. Okay, there's 2 million if you can find it, because that's the people who watch SmackDown. 2 million, thereabouts. 2.3 million, so 2 million, 3 million people. If those people can find the product, they will watch it. Why hide the product from them? So now my thing is, if you take it over to Amazon, you telling them they have to download something else, and then people are just going to be like, no, I'm not doing it. Especially if I got to pay for it, I'm not doing it. So you're cutting yourself off right there, and you're lowering your value. If you do it on Peacock, it's just like watching a pay-per-view at that point. Just come in, tune in at 8 o'clock, watch Raw, turn it off, go to bed, whatever. You know? That's where I'm looking at it. But again, streaming services are losing money. Cable companies are losing money. Where is the money going to come from? Probably YouTube or TikTok. Wouldn't it be interesting if they did Monday Night Raw on YouTube? I've always wondered why WWE never thought to do a YouTube show. You know? I figured maybe the money's not there, but they could actually go to YouTube and make a deal and say, hey, wouldn't it be nice if we did a YouTube only show? You know, maybe a Saturday morning show or something like that. And I think they do like the bump and stuff like that, but why not like a show with wrestling on it? It don't need to be like an hour. Maybe let's say you rebooted the Mae Young Classic, but it was YouTube only. There's people who will watch it just because it's on YouTube, because everybody has YouTube. Like, I don't think that there's a person walking planet Earth that does not have YouTube. So when you think about that, you could create content and You could do a King of the Ring tournament. Do it only on YouTube. You know, wouldn't it be nice? I don't know if anything about the Beach Boys being great, but the money comes from sponsorships. You guys don't pay attention. that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from sponsorships. So they're probably going to load up on sponsorships and then go behind a paywall somewhere, and that's not right. Don't do that. Because the reason why people grow up to be wrestling fans, especially a lot of broke people who end up being athletes, and you know, like when you look at, I just finished Tim Hornbaker's book on Ric Flair, and they talked about Ric Flair's pop cultural significance in there. The football players and people who watched him. A lot of those people watched him growing up. And a lot of those people who watched him growing up, they watched him on their local stations. You know, some of it was cable, some of it wasn't. But when you look at it from that perspective, the people who you influence, that you would, those people tend to be lower income people who grow in stature as they go older. Like we see a lot of wrestling fans, they tend to be people who were lower income. And then they went on to do great things. Rappers, ball players, etc. And they grew up with SmackDown being on broadcast television. Or like me, it was on broadcast television, TV 20 in Detroit. I got all the wrestling. Not TV 20, I'm sorry, TV 38 in Detroit. I got ECW, I got Smoky Mountain, I got USWA, I got WWF, all on those same networks. And I didn't grow up with WCW because I didn't have cable, right? So a lot of people are like, oh, you hate WCW. And like, I didn't grow up with it because I didn't have cable, right? It's a Turner product. Turner kept that shit on cable. I didn't have cable. So I didn't have it. I didn't have access to it. If I went to somebody's house who had cable, that's when I would see Ric Flair and Sting and all this kind of stuff. So when you take into account, and to broaden our horizon and how we talk about this subject, look at the success of TNA and AEW in England. It's on a free network. So pretty much anybody who wants to see it can watch it. So it's very successful over there. They have greater reach, more penetration into the audience. People grow up with it because they can click their, turn the little knobs, but y'all don't know about that. But you know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And WWE has been the masters of cultural penetration. Being that they put wrestling in everything, comic books, video games, other television shows, coloring books, action figures. They increased their reach by getting into little bits of everything. They had a cable show in Monday Night Raw, which I couldn't watch because I didn't have cable, but I watched Superstars religiously. You know? So when you talk about the future of the business is not going to be fucking Amazon Prime, because people are not going to have that. There's going to be a lot of people who don't have that. All right? Even if that's where the money is, people don't have it. So you're basically going to say, we're going to sign a 4-year deal with Amazon Prime. So basically, you're going to throw Raw into a dark room for 4 years. That's 4 years people don't grow up with the Raw product. That's a mistake. And there's no two ways about it. That's a mistake. You know? At least with Peacock, you got the people right there already. At least. You know, that's what the loss of Fox is about. If they could have kept the Fox deal, at least they would have been in everybody's household. Even if they got preempted or bumped for us every once in a while, they in everybody's household. You know? It's a completely different ballgame. This is how you have to think about things in terms of business. WWE thrives off of, they have a really young audience. You know, I forget, I think it might have been some social media service says that the average WWE fan is age of like 12 or something like that. When you take that into account, 12-year-olds don't have fucking Amazon Prime. What are they going to do with it? You have to put it where they can find it and where their parents feel comfortable with them watching it. You know, it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, not just the money, but that's why you can't just go to any cable network. I mean, look at what happened with TNA. They just, we're going to go to Destination America. Nobody has that goddamn network. Nobody can find it. So, yeah, the show died. They took TNA Impact and threw it in a dark corner for however long they were on Destination America and Pop TV, and people thought the company was dead. They're like, oh shit, this company's still around? It's like, yeah. Yeah. But it was on Pop TV for a long time. It was on Destination America. It's on AXIOS. Nobody has these fucking networks. So they can't find it. They can't find the product to watch it. WWE has to avoid that problem. Avoid trying to hide your product. They have always been on the forefront of getting their product in front of people, even if they don't get payment up front for it. So that's what I'm saying is, maybe you're not going to get paid up front. You might have to get some money on the back end. You might have to rake the sponsors over the coals. You might have to say, look, we're going to take less money than we probably should, but we want our own sponsorships and all this kind of stuff. We want a certain amount of money off this, and this, because we don't want to sacrifice the reach. You don't want to sacrifice the reach. The moment you start putting everything behind a paywall and nobody can find it, that's when things are going to start going downhill. Which is why they can't, if they go off a USA network, they can't disappear. You can't go over to, FXX or something like that, because not everybody got that network. They might be able to do Turner. If Warner Brothers really involved with WWE, you might be able to get away with that. I don't see why they would, but you might be able to get away with that. ESPN, you probably could get away with that because most people have ESPN, but a lot of people don't have cable. So cable networks are pretty much off the table anyway. That was the thing that was a big deal about the Fox deal, is that they were finally getting off cable and getting the product in front of people, making new fans, getting in on the ground floor. But now they surrendered that part, so we're stuck with this. All right. Darren Gordon Hill says it was why we didn't get Raw until Friday, even on Sky Sports. So why pay for a 4-day delay? That's crazy. He said he got WCW after Turner Classic Movies on free cable, but Raw was on Sky Sports, which is premium cable. Can we get Fresh and Fit as commentators on this YouTube show? Unless you want to get demonetized, probably not. Who wants to see those fools argue with airheads on Raw? I don't care about that. All right, let's do this Vince McMahon thing so we can wrap this up. The AXIOS they did an interview, well, they did a paper or whatever on Vince. Oh my God, it would take forever to load up now, wouldn't it? This is not what people think it is. A lot of these things are not what people think they are. It says WWE founder Vince McMahon sets the stage for his possible exit by Dan Primack. So it says, let's get right to it. McMahon currently holds around 28.84 million TKO shares, which was valued at $3 billion as of yesterday's market close. TKO first disclosed its registration plan on 184, the SEC filing. It says neither the company nor McMahon has commented further. It says McMahon, the same filing says that McMahon, alongside two other TKO executives, quote, will be selling stockholders in this offering. So they're going to be selling some of the shares. That's a definite verb tense penned by lawyers who are paid a lot of money to be accurate. It says why it matters. It says Vince McMahon is one of TKO's greatest assets, given his institutional knowledge of the business. That's why he participated in listing day on the New York Stock Exchange last Tuesday. Despite being on medical leave related to spinal surgery, posing for photos with Endeavor CEO Ari Emanuel and UFC boss Dana White. But he's also one of his greatest liabilities, not only for past misconduct, including payoffs to cover up alleged sexual misconduct, but because in July he was served with both a federal search warrant and a federal grand jury subpoena, although the nature of the investigation is unclear, and McMahon has not been charged with a crime. TKO itself says in a regulatory filing, quote, McMahon's membership on our board could expose us to negative publicity and or have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. His membership also may result in additional scrutiny or otherwise exacerbate the other risks described therein. Any of these outcomes could directly or indirectly have adverse financial and operational impacts on our business. So, when you do a filing and you're a publicly traded company, they did this before. You have to talk about your competition. You have to talk about risks, right? People act like these are really big deals, but they are paid to think about every possible thing that could go wrong, okay? But I think it was 2 or 3 days ago when WWE put out their lists of competition. It featured NWA, Ryzen FC, Bellator, Impact. It was just anybody who does similar things to what we do, right? With the exception of MLW. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? They take into account that any one of these companies, Professional Fight League being another one, being one, where somebody could come along, give them $200 million, now all of a sudden they're more of a competitor than they used to be. You have to take that into account, that the ever-changing nature of the business. Vince McMahon's involvement in TKO is the same thing. There is an ever-changing situation. Vince McMahon being there does expose the company to adverse effects. He could get sued again. He could get arrested. He could get found guilty of a crime. He could just be under investigation in totality forever. You know, just him being involved may run off some advertisers or some sponsors or whatever. There's a lot of things that could go wrong. And that's basically what they're saying here. Because they're obligated to tell you that. This is not maybe like WWE has forced to admit this. It's like they have to tell you anything that could possibly happen. You know, COVID-19 could happen again, and now all the shows are shut down again. You know, those will be under acts of God. You know, when you take out insurance on something, you have to give anything that could happen. Your house could be flooded, your house could be burned, your house could be bombed. You know, your house could get destroyed in an earthquake. You know, they take all of that into account. And then you have to make a decision based off of all the information that you've been given. So you give the investors the information that Vince McMahon is involved with this. Vince McMahon has been accused of crimes, even though he has not been arrested of anything. He has not been charged with any crimes. He is under investigation. So they're being upfront about this could happen. This is possible. But they're not saying this is happening. All right? They're just saying this is possible. There's a lot of things that are possible. There are a lot of things that could happen. That doesn't mean that they will happen. Doesn't mean that it did happen. So all this talk about, you know, Vince McMahon might get forced to step down if the SEC files a report. It's like if he gets charged with a crime, he's going to step down. Because he's going to focus on dealing with that crime. Until he's charged with a crime, he's going to sit in his chair and do whatever he wants. And this is common sense to anybody who knows how to think. If he is charged with a financial crime, he cannot work on the board. But he has to be charged with a crime. They have not charged him with anything yet. So now you have all these people who are sitting around with the prayer hands. Oh, I hope Vince embezzled money or whatever. It's like they're still investigating. It's been a year, so we don't know what's going on. Vince got a new spine. He's feeling new and fresh, and he went and got him a nice suit. A fresh dye job. I don't know why he's. Somebody said, and I think it's probably smart, that Vince started growing that mustache because he wanted to change his image. He wanted to separate himself from the gray-haired Vince that's been on TV. That's funny. Right? That's legit funny. And it might be true, if we're being honest. But ultimately, until he's charged with a crime, there really is no point in talking about it. What they're telling you is, by investing in us, you're exposed to the likelihood that our executive chairman may get arrested. You are exposed to the fact that our executive chairman is under investigation by federal law enforcement. So this could happen. Shares could fall because Vince McMahon got arrested. Shares could fall because there's another incident with Vince McMahon. When WWE did their old filings, they will often put in there that Vince McMahon was also a risk, that he is the creative leader of the company. If he is incapacitated or something else, that could really open up the company to financial damage, which is very much true. If Vince, if Vince had not, let's say, been outed and with the payoffs or whatever, instead Vince had a heart attack or a stroke, the company would have been in disarray. But they would have already told the investors that this thing could possibly happen. This is what he needs for. This is what we need this guy for. But because we lean on him so heavily, if something were to happen to him, it could adversely affect the company. TKO is saying the exact fucking thing, just in different language, because we've now gone through other things that has occurred. Instead of his death or his illness, it is now the fact that he may be in some kind of legal trouble. But that's always going to be the case. If the CEO, chairman, or whatever gets in some kind of legal troubles, the company is exposed to all kinds of financial downfalls. It's common sense. I think these guys take advantage of people not being able to think too well or not thinking that much about it, because this is common sense to anybody who can think. If you ran a lemonade stand and you got sick and now your employees have to run the lemonade stand, that's a problem, because they don't have the expertise that you have. So it would be smart. It would behoove you to tell your investors, hey, I got sick, and so for 6 months my employees are running the lemonade stand. And it is what it is. I did see the I didn't read the entire article. I didn't read that LA Times thing. I did see that one of the guys who resigned, was that at least Lahoud or whatever, Ignace Lahoud, said he stepped down because Vince McMahon's return was against his values, which is fine. His guy's got personal values or whatever. But I think we looked at him anyway as being probably the guy who tried to rat Vince out. Something tells me that guy was involved with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a Stephanie McMahon bring-in too. Something tells me Stephanie's been very, very quiet about this stuff. Extremely quiet. She disappeared off the face of the earth. I don't think she's even doing anything now. So I'm very suspicious about that. But I'm also thinking that if Vince is the devil that I think he is, he's going to set Stephanie up for her return. And so when you look at, he's going to start selling shares of TKO, and I think they still have the empty seat. I think they're going to probably slide Stephanie in that joint. He's probably going to end up selling some shares to Stephanie and all this kind of stuff to get her back in when she's ready to come in. Look, Vince plans to live till he's 120, which is humorous. And there's no doubt. I do not doubt the veracity or the integrity of my Olympic gold medalist. So if he says Vince McMahon claimed that he's going to live to be 120, I believe him. Especially since I believe that Vince believes it. He's going to be like Dick Cheney or something like that. I legitimately think that they're going to cryo freeze Vince for what days that they find the fountain of youth. And then he's going to be like fucking Ra's al Ghul. Or he's going to, every 10 years, he's going to jump in there to come back. If they find a way to live forever, Vince is going to find a way to live forever. But as far as we can tell right now, he's a mortal human being. Means he's going to die at some point. And I think that's where people are just going to have to leave it. That Vince McMahon is going to end up dead. And he's going to still be in the same position. You're still going to think about him today. And then when you think about him today, and if you're sitting back waiting on the government to get him out of the chair, you can forget it. At least I don't see it happening right now. I just don't see it happening. So all these dirt sheets that are running around talking about Vince, is a liability to TKO. It's like Ari Emanuel told you out of his own fucking mouth he wanted Vince there. The guy said it out of his own mouth. The guy's a billionaire. He doesn't need to lie to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guy's a multi-billionaire. He doesn't need to lie to you. The fuck he needs to lie to you for? He told you when the deal was announced, he was not going to do it without Vince. He was clear about that. He does not need to lie to you. Ari Emanuel, there's no benefit to him to lying to you. All right? So I take his word for it. He doesn't want to do the deal without Vince. He doesn't want to run WWE without Vince because nobody can do it but Vince, at least in their mind. And since nobody has done it but Vince and Triple H now, they have reason to believe that. So until they absolutely necessarily need to get rid of Vince, because either A, he's been convicted of a crime, or B, he croaked, he's going to be there. All right? Get over it. The conversation about it is dumb. No podcaster is going to be able to tell you otherwise because Ari Emanuel said it out of his own mouth. He wants Vince McMahon there. He said it out of his own mouth. He wanted Dana White where he is. Unless Dana White fucking dies or gets convicted of a crime, he is going to be running the UFC. And part of that is because they're so good at their job. But another part of that is because he is so ingrained in the culture that to break that continuity would destroy what Endeavor's trying to do here. Endeavor's trying to profit off of us while having us think that nothing has changed. That's the plan. The plan is not to bring in our own people and fire everybody in a traditional takeover. Oh, we come in, we start firing all these people because we don't need them. That changes the culture and the nature of the business, and it runs fans off. All right? It's like, oh no, this is not our baby. This is not what we was watching. We're out of here. By maintaining Vince and Kevin Dunn and Triple H and Bruce and all of them, it's getting us to believe that nothing is going to change. It's the same product. It's a seamless move. Seamless. You're not even supposed to notice that Raw has new ownership. You're not even supposed to notice that anymore. You know? That's the plan, is to not have that continuity. And that's why Endeavor is not going to do anything to Vince. They just spent $9 billion on this thing. They're not going to turn around and then say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to go ahead and butcher this $9 billion property we just bought. At least not right now. Will they butcher it in 5 or 10 years? Maybe. Will they butcher it after Vince dies? Maybe. But not right now. Not right now. It's too new. People are too skittish about Endeavor right now. Too many people don't know what they're about. You know? So people are going to be like, okay, As long as Raw and NXT and stuff doesn't change, and I can still watch what I want to watch, and I can still see the guys that I want to see, it's fine. But then there's going to be a hard change. It's going to be a hard change. And it's coming sooner than you think. That's when Roman is gone, Randy's gone, and now Triple H has to push his own stars. That's when things are going to get interesting. That's when things are going to get interesting. When Vince croaks and dies and there's no way he's coming back, that's when things are going to get interesting. If Vince ends up in prison, that's when things are going to get interesting. Right now, there's enough continuity where Triple H can have a terrible Monday Night Raw. He can release 20 talents from their contracts, and people will just blame it on Vince. Vince firing everybody again. Vince took Tegan Nox's title match from her, and all this garbage. Vince is there to be the heat magnet. That's all that shit's about. They don't want you to believe that anything is changing. Because if you see something changing, you might see it as an opportunity to jump off. It's smart. Because typically what people do when they buy a product and they want to change it, they got their own vision for it. Endeavor doesn't come in with their own vision for WWE. They come in with the ability to maximize Vince's vision. That's what they did to UFC. They didn't come in and start changing the UFC. They came in and found a way to maximize what Dana White wanted to do. And since Dana White has clout with the audience, if Dana White says this is a good idea, the audience will be like, that's a good idea. Same thing here. Vince McMahon is, the boss. We already know that he's the boss. If Vince stands in front of us and says, we're going to have a show on the moon, and everybody's going to be like, you know what? Show on the moon? That's fucking rules. Okay, let's go. But if Ari Emanuel, a guy you don't know, stands in front of you and tells you you're about to have a show on the moon, you could be like, man, Vince never would have done that. This is stupid. I'm not doing that. It's psychology. I noticed it as soon as Ari Emanuel said he would not do this deal without Vince. I knew what this shit was about. He don't want to turn people off. He knows that people are loyal to Vince McMahon and to the product. You damage loyalty by changing the people at the top. So why do that? Especially when you don't have to. Especially when you have no experience running the property or anything like it. They're not going to fuck with it. So they're saying, okay, look, Vince will be dead soon anyway. He's 78. Give him 5 or 10 more. He thinks he's going to be 120. He may live to 80, and that's probably it. And then you can do whatever you want if you wanted to do something, but they have no interest in doing anything. They have an interest in maximizing the company, not reforming it and having a whole new vision for it. And I just don't see that being the case. Just like some people thought TKO was going to take over and WWE wasn't going to exist anymore. They're talking that dumb shit about WWE having weight classes. It's like, man, what the? They are not changing the product that much. That would be so damn dumb for them to change the product that much. No, it's not going to be I saw that, what was it? Riddick Moss made a joke that he's going to be TKO world champion one day. That's funny. It was clearly a joke, but WWE still exists. Like it's not that TKO is taken over and it's the only thing that exists anymore. No, they don't want you to think about this being different. They want you to think about it being the same. They want you to say it's the same company that did WrestleMania 3, same company that did WrestleMania 10, same company that did all of this stuff before, same company, same people. Because then you would just plop your ass right in front of the television on Mondays and watch it, and that's it. That's what they want. They don't want you overthinking it, like, oh, Ari Emanuel was writing the show. Like, come on. No, he's not. His daughter might be writing the show, but he's not. I don't know what his daughter does in WWE. I didn't look at it. I just saw that his daughter works in WWE, and I was like, interesting. Very interesting. How about that nepotism? Ari Emanuel's daughter works there, and Vince's doesn't. Is Vince's daughter going to go work for Endeavor? But I think that a lot of wrestling websites, they take advantage of you. You know, they know that most people are not paying attention, or they don't know. And so they can say stuff like the SEC is going to force Vince out of power. It's like if they arrest him, yes, he's going to be out of power. That's obvious. Anybody who with a functioning brain cell would have known that. Clearly, he's going to be out of power if he gets arrested. But other than that, it's not going to be an issue. You know, they're just telling people straight up, Vince is a liability. He's also one of our greatest assets. He's also one of our greatest liabilities. All right. It's time to wrap this thing up. I told you I was going to take about 2 hours. I got about there. Thank everybody for stopping by. I appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys live on Sunday. At least Sunday. Let's say Sunday. We'll see if something actually happens and I don't have to do the show Sunday, but Sunday. All right. Hit the like button. Everybody who's still here, there's 33 people here, so there should be at least 33 likes. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys later.